The transition phase of Brexit continues until the end of the year, but the farmers in the kingdom are already worried about the time afterwards. It is about hundreds of thousands of jobs and, last but not least, the welfare of the animals. Brian Bowen climbs over the fence to his sheep with 2 heavy buckets in his hand. Just imagine that picture. The animals bleed because it's feeding time, and so a woolly sheep spawn quickly forms around the 60-year-old farmer. Quite a nostalgic image, I guess. On the lush green hills on the edge of the Brecon Beacons National Park in southern Wales, Brian Bowen looks after around 1,500 sheep and 200 cows for meat production. It is a very traditional and simple job with low wages, he says, but it is also a way of life. Either you love it or you hate it. Brian Bowen has been finding it increasingly difficult to love agriculture lately. He's troubled by the uncertain future of the industry, fearing the effects of Brexit and the kingdom's exit from the EU's internal market. We are concerned that we can no longer sell our products to the EU. Brian Bowen's lamb and beef is largely exported. Trade in agricultural products is hugely important to the UK economy. In 2019, agricultural products with a total value of 26 billion euros were sold abroad from Great Britain, almost 3/4 of them to the EU member states. If there is no trade agreement between the EU and Great Britain, this proportion threatens to decrease or even disappear at the end of the transition period in December 2020. Customs duties would then be due for exports to the EU. Brian Bowen also blames his own government for this. It's not just about some groceries. There are huge quantities that then have to wait for transport at the border. And because the government doesn't solve the problem, the goods cannot be exported because customs duties make them more expensive. So you can see Brian Bowen is not very happy. And that is why Prime Minister Johnson wants to conclude trade agreements with third countries in the future. Negotiations are already underway with Australia and the United States, although we already know there will be no deal with the United States before the elections in November. But if it happens, British meat could in future be exported there duty-free. However, such deals would likely open the door to the UK market for low-cost imports with lower standards. To keep British products competitive, costs and production standards in the UK would have to be lowered. There is no other way. This in turn would have an impact on animal welfare and nature. But there's a problem. Currently, the law does not allow a reduction in production standards, emphasizes agricultural scientist David Rose from the University of Reading. Above all, meat farmers would have to compete with their high quality and high prices. They could not compete with Brazil or Argentina and their low animal husbandry standards. For this reason, a ban on the import of cheap goods is also being discussed. However, the British Parliament, in which Boris Johnson's Tory party has the majority, has recently rejected an amendment that would have fundamentally prohibited cheap imports. In any case, such exceptions are rather unrealistic for certain products, says agricultural researcher David Rose. Free trade agreements would talk about all goods. From the scientist's point of view, an agreement with the EU is the best solution. And the less this would change compared to the current situation, the better for British farmers. We need a free trade agreement with the EU that provides for low or no tariffs. It must protect farmers from being crushed by cheap imports. It has to take producers into account and maintain British standards. The umbrella organization of the Welsh farmers and Brian Bowen see it that way. Farmer Bowen is convinced that the EU protects food quality better than the British government. And if you now want to know more about European politics from a German point of view, YouTube has chosen another of my videos right here for you in the end screen, right next to your chance to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. I'll see you in my next video. Click and enjoy. Viel Spaß!